So let's try this thing. 3 episodes right in a row. I'm going to raise this one up for me just a bit. But with 3 episodes right in a row, I was so excited to get to the studio to be able to spend a little bit of time, because the last couple of days we've been, shuffling, running all over the place, and just haven't been able to get here. And I tell you, this is probably one of the, and when I say one of the, I think it's one of the happiest places in the world for me, because I love being able to be here, spending time with each and every one of you, and sharing and just pouring out. So here's the routine in the morning. I wake up, generally I wake up a little bit earlier. I go and try and move my body a little bit, and then I read something, and then I write. And so I want to read something that lifts me up. I choose Proverbs, which is the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. It's 3,000-year-old wisdom, and it's been amazing. But when I do this, then I write, and after I write, then I'll send out the production notes to a couple of friends. If you want them, let me know. Reach out to me, send me a message, and I'll help you to be able to get those. And I send those out, and then I generally will call somebody and speak it. So I read it, then I write it, and then I speak it. And this is something that I find that has helped me along on the journey. But one of the journeys that I had is we went to Buellton, California. I grew up in Lompoc, California. Big shout out to the Central Coast. And I went back there at a little place called Flying Flags, and we were staying there, and I thought I would have a nostalgic walk, because that's where I had my first job, at Valley Automotive with Scott Steven. And I used to change oil for cars and things like that. And we were staying at Flying Flags, and I got up for my early morning walk, and I thought, man, I'm just going to go on this walk. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. It's beautiful, the Central Coast, like rolling hills, the Solvang Valley. It's unbelievable. It looks a lot like Napa. So as I'm walking, though, I start out and I feel this huge rock in my shoe, like massive rock. And so I'm a little bit distracted, but I'm thinking the 20 seconds that it'll take to be able to stop, untie my shoe, take this huge boulder out of my shoe, and then keep going. That'll take way too long. So why don't I just keep going? I could press through. I'm a man. I beat my chest and just said, I'll just go through. Well, as I was walking, I was realizing that I wasn't looking at the beautiful mountains. I wasn't looking at all the nostalgic things that when I grew up, all these stores that I had grown up around. What I was so focused on is this big boulder in my shoe. And then I finally did the whole loop. I walked by my old work, and I got to right around Burger King in Buellton there. And as I almost get there, it's about 3/4 of the walk is done. I finally think in my head, like, okay, all right, I'll take this huge rock out of my shoe. I lift my shoe up. I put the toe towards the air. I hit the heel of it, and plink, plink, this little tiny microscopic rock that I can barely even see drops to the bottom. And I looked in my shoe, and I was thinking, was that all it was that caused me not to look at the mountains, that caused me not to just have so much nostalgia while I walked by things and really appreciate it? But I was only focused on this, what I thought was this big boulder. And then I dumped it out on the ground, and I put my shoe on. Now I was comfortable, and I wasn't thinking about my feet anymore. I was just thinking about all the great things around me. But for 3/4 of my walk, all I was thinking about was that little rock in my shoe. And it's crazy, because Proverbs 5, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, it walks us right through why it's so important to take that rock, whatever it is today, out of your shoe. So let's get this party started.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes. Yeah.
3 episodes back to back today. We're on Proverbs 5, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And this one hit me like a ton of bricks when I was in Buellton, California. If you haven't got a chance to be able to go out there to Buellton, I would suggest it. It's Flying Flags. You can spend time with your family there. It's unbelievable. I feel that the podcast should be sponsored by Flying Flags. I think that would be kind of cool. And so I want to tell you about Roy Tuscany too. He's been a supporter of the podcast, and he's just an incredible guy. He has the High Fives Foundation. And so the High Fives Foundation is the accessible option to individuals back in getting individuals back into the outdoor sports and recreation after a life-changing industry. And the website is highfivesfoundation.org. And guys, this episode is brought to you by BLING. It's moisture, strength, and shine. It smells like vacation. It is I think the greatest product. It's one of those ones where once you have a little bit of bling in your life, it'll be the have to for the rest of your life. Every single person, it was the number one seller in our company, and every company that carries it is the number one seller for them too. It's unbelievable. My wife swears by it. My kids swear by it. It's for your moisture, strength, and shine for your hair, skin, and nails. And oh yeah, go and buy the book on Amazon. We got the link on there too. It's called The Vibe. It's 117 pages, but I wrote it myself, so I think it's kind of cool. So let's go to Proverbs 5. When I was in Buellton and I'm on this walk, it's like this rock in my shoe. And, I think a lot of times we can have perfect situations and we could have a rock in our shoe and it'll take our mind or our focus off of those things. And this was a big one for me. And that whole experience of taking that walk there, I wish that I would have had the time back because I would have got to spend time and, take pictures and just be in the moment. But here's this little tiny, and in my eyes, though, while I was walking, it was huge. But it was this little tiny microscopic. It'd take me 20 seconds to get it out of my shoe, and I just continued on. So, in this, in Proverbs 5, it really urged us to identify, eliminate anything that could come in between your relationship with you and God. And this is a tough one because some of us have a relationship or, our relationship is impeded with God because something that happened in our past. Something that happened, somebody was in our life and maybe they did us wrong and they went to church. So they're like, oh, well, I don't like that person. And it's not about church, but they maybe had a relationship with God or they said something about God at one point and then they did you wrong. And then you feel like, oh man, I judge God on man's inconsistencies. And this is what I would urge you to look at today is just look and say, like, what's that little tiny thing that if you eliminated it, could help you to be able to focus. And it was pretty simple in verse 1 and 2. It talked about paying attention, turning your ear and to speak life and wisdom. Watch this. So pay attention. First of all, pay attention. Pay attention to the things that are around you. It's amazing in life because all things are principle-based. And so as you're having conversations with different people, you're interacting in different areas, watch for the principles that are happening in those times. And so what God is saying is just pay attention, turn your ear, start listening for it. If you listen for something, you'll hear it. If you focus on something, you'll see it. I'm right now focused, very, very focused on a baby blue convertible VW Bug from 2013 to 2019, and that's what I want to get for my daughter. So if you do have one and you are selling it, let me know because I want to get it. But that's what I'm focused on. And guess what I started seeing all the time? Those things. So when we focus on it, then we'll hear it. If we pay attention to it, then we'll hear it. And that's what God is saying. And then he says, like, once that happens and it fills up your heart, once you start paying attention, once you start listening to it, then it drops down into your heart. Then start speaking it because your words are an overflow of what your heart is. And so when we start speaking that speaking life to people, start speaking wisdom to people, what starts to happen is then we start to almost flesh out and become aware of the little things that aren't in line with that. And for me, it was that little rock in my shoe or what I thought was a boulder at first. And in verse 3 to 6 in Proverbs 5, it just talked about that it's just a distraction. That little rock was just a distraction to cause me to not think about the beautiful things that were happening, the fact that I was on vacation, I got to spend time with my kids, all these things. Couldn't think about any of it. All I could think about was that little rock in my shoe. And so in verse 3 through 6, it takes you right through that. And in verse 7 through 11, it talked about keeping your honor, your dignity, and your wealth most of the time is just eliminating the little rock in your shoe. And how many times have we, our honor comes into question, our dignity comes into question, and sometimes our wealth comes into question, or we're impacted by it because there's a little rock in our shoe that we haven't taken the time to identify and then just eliminate it. And in verse 12 through 14, it talks about discipline can happen when the rock is removed. And it's not what God was talking to me about the other day is it's not that there's a lack of discipline, not that people need more discipline or they need more strength or anything like that. It's just most of the time your discipline is there. You just got a little rock in your shoe. You got a little something that's distracting you. So remove that part of it, identify it first, then remove it. Take the time. Don't be in such a rush like I was. Slow down and eliminate the little rock in your shoe. In verse 15 through 20, it talked about working your land. You hear this a lot in Proverbs, and it's one of those things where the more and more that you work your land, the more and more that you just lock into what it is that you're doing. I got a chance to be able to sit down with Creative Click yesterday, which we're going to be doing some work with them. And it was incredible because, here I was thinking like, I've got all these ideas. I need to go and do this and touch this. And I see all these other things that are happening. Maybe I can add them. And they just looked at it and they were like, why don't you just lock in and work what you do? And so that's why Creative Click is so important in people's businesses because they really distill down and say, like, really, truly, what is your land? And when you have your land and you work it, while you're working it, make sure before that you take your shoe off and remove the little tiny microscopic rock that will seem like a boulder in your shoe so you can walk the path and just work your land. And in verse 21 through 23, it just reiterated this as it finished up, which was just to remove the rock from your shoe. Like, what is it today? In Proverbs 5, it walks us down and it says, like, simply, God just wants a relationship with you. Every one of us, he wants a relationship because then what he can do is he can build your business. He can build your relationships. He can build all the things if we'll simply work our land and be able to focus on him. My friend Justin reached out to me the other day, Justin Laufty. And he said, how do I know the difference between forcing something to happen and just working really hard at it? And my answer is have you prayed it up before you started? Because most of the time, what I have the tendency to do is I start something and then I turn around and just pray that God blesses it. And that's not his business. That's not the business he's in. What he wants us to do is in Matthew 6:33, it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all else will be added on. He simply wants us to be able to turn to him. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And so if we take it to him first and we say, open the door, close the door. If he opens the door, you go through that door as to the best of your ability. You work your land. You stay diligent, which is right work, and you do it. But if you started off and then you just work really hard and then you turn around and say, God, can you just please bless this? It's not the business that he's in. And all he wants is just a relationship with you. And sometimes all it is the little rock in your shoe that's causing you to focus on something else that's a lot smaller than you think, but it becomes so big in your mind. That's been Proverbs 5. My name is Kelly Cardenas. Take the rock out your shoe. Go buy the book. Check out BLING. Check out High Fives Foundation. And go check out my wife because she's a gangster. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.